Hey, what's up, everyone? This is me, Dre. I just wanted to make this video because I was going through my Facebook feed today, and one of my homeboys, he posted this picture. It was a comment that Ben Carson said during a radio interview back in October. Now, Ben Carson, he's a Republican presidential candidate, but he's also one of Fox News' house niggers, along with Allen West and Sheriff David Clark. So whenever something happens, especially when it comes to an unarmed black person getting killed, they run to one of these niggas to speak out against black people. And of course, white America eats that shit up. Now, this isn't me attacking white people, but the truth is, people cling to the words of these black people because they're speaking out against their own ethnicity. Do I agree with everything that black people do? No. Black on black crime, that is an issue. But there's also white on white crime, and no one addresses that. But they seem to try to amplify black on black crime as though shit doesn't happen in other communities with other ethnicities. And I don't want to get too far off the subject with that. But when it comes to Ben Carson, he's a strong proponent against Planned Parenthood and defunding statewide or governmental assistance for Planned Parenthood. And I won't really touch too much on that because I think that's the right of the woman to decide whether or not she wants to have a child. It's just as simple as that. We as men should never have a right to that. That's a woman's decision because she's the one carrying the child. But this motherfucker right here, during a recent interview, the discussion was about religion when it comes to a presidential candidate. And he said that he would not advocate putting a Muslim in charge of the nation. This kind of stems to the attack on President Obama because his middle name is Hussein. His father is Kenyan. A lot of Africans are Muslim by faith, religion. So the attack is on President Obama. Instead of him being an American president, because he is a U.S. citizen, that is the criteria for being a U.S. president. But there's nothing to say that regardless of the religious background, you can't serve in the Oval Office. But all of a sudden, you have a black man that's in office, and there's always been a question as far as his nationality. And now there's an attack on him for whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim. It really doesn't fucking matter because in the history of this country, a lot of serving presidents have been Christians, Catholics. You have a Jew, not as a president, but you have Bernie Sanders, Democratic presidential candidate, who's a Jew, Jewish. And it really shouldn't matter. The question is he an American citizen? We're not asking for President Putin from Russia to come and run our country. We're not asking for the Prime Minister of Japan or Great Britain or France or any of those other countries to come and run our country. We have a U.S. American citizen, a black man running this country. And then you have Ben Carson talking about that. And while a lot of people are advocating the strong words that he has against black people, keep in mind, Obama has been every kind of nigger there has been. He's been attacked on Twitter with his Twitter account. You have people making interviews. You had this one asshole who was talking with Donald Trump during one of his town hall meetings where this guy was talking about we have a problem in this nation. It's called Muslims, and he's talking about President Obama, and Donald Trump had nothing to say about it. Surprisingly, when someone attacked Obama and presidential candidate, former presidential candidate John McCain, he corrected the woman by saying, no, he is a family man. I may not agree with everything. We disagree on a lot of stuff. But he is an American citizen. He's a Christian. And he corrected this woman. Donald Trump didn't do such a thing because Donald Trump was leading a witch hunt as far as where Obama was born, like it really fucking matters. He's a U.S. president. And it's too late to question that because he's already in his last term. But going back to this house nigger, Ben Carson, he's attacking the faith of the any presidential candidate. As long as they serve the American people, and really, not all presidents have done that. Even Obama hasn't done that. But then again, all presidents are puppets working for larger corporations. But Ben Carson, back to the interview from last October, this motherfucker says before Obama, people barely noticed skin color. That goes back 150 years. Blacks were happy and grateful for what we were given. No, motherfucker, no, we were not. In this country, people of color, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asians, we had to have a civil rights movement. There's something that white people didn't have to do. In fact, the only time that white people had to have a civil rights movement was for the American Revolution, when they were trying to break off and establish their own nation away from Great Britain. That was their civil rights movement, to get the fuck away from them and the monarchy. But we as people of color, black people, Asians, Hispanics and all, we had to march. We had to fight for that right to vote. We had to fight for that right to marry inside and outside of our ethnicities. Shit like that. You didn't see the Klan going to white people's house unless they agreed or marched with black people. White people who were attacked for marching with the civil rights movements, they were attacked, yes, because they saw the bigger picture. But they weren't trying to be overprivileged or saw themselves apart from people of other colors. All they know is blood is red. We all bleed the same color. And that's what they marched for. They wanted equality for all. But we as people of color, no, we should not have had to be grateful or happy. It's something that we weren't given to from the very beginning. We had to be taken off the shackles, and that shit was gradually given to us. Wow. Like we should just really fucking jump up and down for joy. But this motherfucker to say something like this, he doesn't seem to realize that him as a presidential candidate, and given the fact that President Obama has been all kinds of niggas, what's going to happen if he gets in office? How many niggas is he going to have to be? You never know, because if he doesn't do anything that fits the national agenda or the people's agenda, oh yeah, the attack is going to come. But I have to say, fuck you to Ben Carson for this bullshit right here, because we as black people, should we all stand together? There should be a lot more unity, but I think as American citizens, there should be a lot of unity. But the whole Islamophobia, attacks on ethnicities who are underprivileged, when we talk about white privilege, we're talking about white people who had rights from the very beginning, who didn't have to march for it. A lot of people misinterpret that, and a lot of people that troll my channel, and we debate and argue about that. When I mention that, they try to say, well, maybe I'm talking about maybe they didn't work for what they have. It's not about that. But the thing is, me walking down the street with an AR-15 and a white person walking down the street with an AR-15, I'm the one that's going to get slammed to the ground, while the white guy, he's going to get a couple of casual questions. You see videos on YouTube where people talk shit to the cops, typically white, and they walk away from it unscathed. But there's no White Lives Matter movement because you're not seeing enough of white people getting killed. And we're not calling for that. But people don't seem to understand the Black Lives Matter movement. And we don't need to jump into that because I already made another video about that. But Ben Carson, him speaking out against the Black Lives Matter movement, kind of like David Clark does. These niggas, they don't talk about unarmed cops killing cops killing unarmed black people. They don't want to touch on that because they don't open a can of worms. It's kind of like when you're talking about the history of this country. Certain things are omitted from the education when it comes to how people of color contributed to making this country what it is today. So I wanted to make this video because when I heard about this, it really pissed me off that Ben Carson would say something like that, as though before Obama, everything was hunky-dory. No, motherfucker. Even before Rodney King got his ass whooped, and as I stated, if it wasn't for that one Mexican that videotaped it, quick thinking, and thank you for that, sir. If it wasn't for him, a lot of people wouldn't have known that shit like that was happening, especially white America. But for Mexicans and blacks, the shit was happening in our communities, and we knew about that shit all along. We just didn't have a voice, and no one wanted to listen to us. But it was brought to national attention with the media, yes. But because that one individual had the consciousness to videotape it, then people knew that the shit was happening. Before that, they didn't give a fuck. That's the kind of thing Ben Carson is saying, that we should be grateful for that. Talking about people didn't notice color. How about you ask Medgar Evers, civil rights activist, killed by a white person. So if people didn't notice skin color, why is he dead? Why is Martin Luther King dead? Why is Emmett Till dead? Why is Sandra Bland dead? Why is Eric Garner dead? And it's not because they were thugs or anything like that, and people are quick to call them that, but unarmed black people killed by the cops. There is a problem with race issues in this country, and for those who choose to ignore it, that's part of the problem. Anyway, I've said enough of this video because I'm still kind of agitated about this shit. This motherfucker really pissed me off. He's not going to make it in office. He really isn't. No, he's going to end up dropping out. But anyway, if you like this video, hope that you like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit me up on Facebook. Peace.